Redditors assemble. r/AskReddit. People who grew up rich. What did he think was normal until he learned otherwise? Any hobby I wanted to start as a child, my family would procure the materials within a week. Painting, archery, flying lessons, water skiing, the skis, not a boat, and so on. Anything I wanted to try, my parents would make sure I got the opportunity. It took me a while to realize what an incredible gift that was. In my case, it wasn't just procuring the materials, but my family would actively look for things I might be interested in. Hey, I saw this local recording studio is offering a class. Do you want to take it? There's this 70-foot traditionally rigged ship that does trips where students crew it. Should I sign you up for one? Those sound freaking amazing. Are those examples, or real things you did? Yes, I did the sailing trip when I was 11, and the recording class when I was 12. Dude, frick you for being able to actually sail traditional like that. That sounds amazing. My fiancé was telling me a story about the exchange students that lived with the men, how they were so nice and would help take care of the house. I asked him why his exchange students stayed with them for so long, when all my high school exchange student friends had only stayed for a semester. It was at that moment he realized that he grew up with Swiss nannies. Swiss nannies? Wow, he really is rich. Everything about Switzerland is rich, and their flag, too. That's a big plus. That joke was rich too. I'm pretty neutral about it. What I didn't realize until I was older was that most people don't have the safety net of being well connected that wealthy people have. Just by virtue of where I grew up, there are probably 25 plus people I could call who would either outright give me a good job or get me in for an interview that I'd have to frick up to not get the job. And that doesn't even change in a recession. I think that a decent portion of people never realize this. Wasn't born rich, but got my way through an elite education that built this sort of network. It's ridiculous how valuable it is. And this comment made me realize how fortunate I am to have it. My parents divorced and remarried when I was young, so I essentially grew up in two households with two sets of parents. My dad owned a private jet that he'd use for our family trips and visits, and my stepdad was a pilot in his free time, and he also owned a plane. So I naturally assumed everyone else's parents also owned a plane and could take off whenever they'd please. I also assumed every kid had their own pony or horses, cause my dad would buy me one every year. Nah, turns out I was a sheltered brat. What do you mean? He would buy you one every year? What happened to last year's horse? I'm confused and alarmed. I don't know if this happens in the USA, but in Canada I have several friends that have huge pieces of land and have stables. It's not rare for me to log into Facebook and one of my friends is introducing a new horse into his stable. Sometimes the horses are just pets, companions. Other times they use them in racing for a bit, and once the horse is in its prime they retire it and let it live on in the field and they get a new one. Other times they use the horses to teach people how to ride. Other times they rent the horses out to people who want a horse, but don't have the means to properly give it shelter and time. Living in the prairies is weird, lol. That not everyone went on holidays to 5-star hotels every couple of months. I also thought until I was 10 that virtually everyone owned an overseas holiday home. I remember asking my friend where he went on holidays and he was like, well, I only go away every couple of years. To which I said, but what do you do with your abroad house if you're only visiting it every few years? That day really stunned me, I must say. I had the holiday home thing. Every year since I was born we would go abroad for summer, and so did all my friends. As far as I knew, everyone had a second home they would go to for summer. I did learn around age 11 or so that this wasn't the case. However, I didn't learn until my first job that you can't just get a month off for summer like my dad used to do every year. I put in my holiday request form and my boss just laughed. He offered 2 weeks at most. My world came crashing down. When I told my dad about the holiday home thing, he sat me down and gave me some home truths. The day my childish innocence ended. See, people judge, but if something is everyday and normal to you, then of course you're not going to be able to properly assess things as a kid. Pretty much all my friends flew to a different place for summer like I did, and had second homes. Why would 10-year-old me think this is special when really it was just what happened during summer? Gifts during Christmas, chocolate eggs during Easter, flying to the second home for summer. It's just how shit is until you're properly exposed to other people's lives, which doesn't happen much when you're just a kid who is limited to interacting with whoever their parents expose them to. Normal is all about perspective. Adults have money, right? I wanted a new toy, but Dad said we had no money for it. I said just go to the bank for more. Apparently money is a little more complicated than that. This was also the time when my brothers and I would buy and sell each other toys for very small amounts of money like 50 cents or $1. The funny thing was we always gave a few coins back to someone that bought something as change even though we both counted it out exactly. LOL, kids are basically little disabled people. Not rich, but my mom was an air hostess, so I had all those special airplane tickets which would allow me to travel for a fraction of the price. I literally used planes like a bus. My best was a weekend spent in Kinshasa from Paris. 2 8-hour night flights. It ended at 26 and I discovered pain. That went dark fast. Someday I'm going to write a book that includes this line. That our maids didn't have maids at their home. Till I was like 7 or 8. I firmly believed every single house had 3 maids. Like we did. Basically an endless loop of sorts. I always knew there were really poor people, because my parents have always done a lot of charity. But it took me a while to realize that the middle class exists. It sounds stupid when I put it that way, but it simply didn't click that just because someone has a relatively nice house and doesn't need charity to survive, that doesn't mean they can take 2 months to do an unpaid internship in a foreign city, a fact which was rightfully, but still bitterly thrown in my face by a friend. The unpaid internship is always something I think about. So many people are talented, but they can't afford to take an unpaid internship. And we know it's not what you know, but WHO you know, and we generally meet these people on internships. So not only would you get the chance to have that work experience, but you also get the chance to expand your network. Even a paid internship isn't usually enough to make it in some industries where they're located. If you're paying for school, and the option is a paid internship is $2 less per hour than a retail gig, you're going to stick with the retail gig most of the time. Being poor is expensive. My uncle described it to me perfectly. If someone gives you $5,000, you're going to spend it almost immediately on rent, tuition, groceries, and maybe a small fun thing that you can now afford. If someone gives me $5,000, I'm going to put into my bank account and ride the interest. Many things. Chandeliers and all marble floors are expensive items, not common. Chauffeurs and chefs are very useful people. Having an attached bathroom to every bedroom. Gated house with 24/7 armed security. 4 lawns. Indoor cycling tracks. We had them within our property, not inside the house, just inside the gate. Personal small zoo. I had deer, monkeys, 30 pairs of pigeons, etc. Leave the bedroom unclean and come back to find it tidy with laundry done. In-house intercom in every room. That's just the top of my head. Personal small zoo. I had deer, monkeys, 30 pairs of pigeons, etc. Are you the son of one of these rich Middle Eastern sheiks that travel with their own host of falcons everywhere? I dunno. I think you could have something similar if you spent smart. I saw an ad for a goat the other day. Only $20. I thought almost every mom was a stay-at-home housewife. I also thought people don't eat clean only because they lack discipline. Only when I got older did I realize that not everyone has the time and physical energy to cook almost every meal, nor the money to buy healthy stuff fresh and make them taste good. For lentils. Lentils are disgusting. Plus, after too many shitty days, comfort food can be the only reprieve. See, that's the part I think a lot of people don't grasp. They think not eating healthy, or being fat, is a moral failing indicating you lack willpower or self-control. The truth is, everyone has a limit to how much willpower they have, how much self-control they have, how much bullshit they can tolerate. The less stress you have in your life, the easier it is to say no to habits that are unhealthy yet pleasurable. The poor have more vices than the wealthy, because their self-discipline and willpower was used up on having to work 2+ shitty jobs, where you have to ass-kiss your boss and customers all day, just to make enough money to barely scrape by. You get psychologically beaten down all day. The appeal of a Big Mac meal, or a cigarette, or a few too many beers, starts to get a lot more powerful. Yep, I totally agree. If someone looked at my teenage years, they might bizarrely conclude that I had a lot more willpower on summer breaks, but of course that's not true. It's just because I had nothing else to do then but get fit. Almost everyone has the energy to diet and exercise and find the best diet. Exercise. If that's all they have to do, I feel like rolling my eyes at celebs who talk about how much discipline and willpower it takes to be hot like them. I mean, if we were all paid to do nothing but be hot, we'd all be hot. Right now, I have one decent job, and I'm reasonably healthy. I can't imagine having 2 crappy jobs and keeping up the same level of fitness. I hate all of you. In this thread, people starting with not rich but then start to describe some LOL display of money. I'm not rich, but my dad whom left my mother makes well over $300,000, but never pays my mom child support and so we are poor. I heard he got in trouble during an audit. Yeah, it's actually shocking. Not rich, but above average. Goes on to say he's taken 2 trips a year out of country as a freaking child. And the way he told the story almost made it seem like he either went alone or like with other friends or some shit, which is also quite strange. Like you live in America and twice a year you go fly out of country and you think you're only above average? I considered my family a little bit above average, but the more you see of the world you slowly start realizing your family was barely clinging on. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button and leave a comment which story you liked the most. Subscribe and hit the bell notification for updates on our latest videos. And don't forget to check the links in the description box for more awesome content.